Hey guys, what is going on? Lee Sanders here of the RCWR Show, coming at you guys with a special Metallica S&M 2 concert review. Man, you want to talk about a lot of grit, you want to talk about a lot of bravado, that gusto, emotion, rawness, all that, and then some. Man, what a fantastic concert. I want to talk all about that. Make sure you stick around for this, man. So, look, longtime listeners know how much of a big Metallica fan I am. And I had shared it throughout social media the past 2 weeks that I was going to be checking out this Metallica concert. Now, some people were a little bit thrown off by what I was saying, because there's actually a couple of people that were saying, but wait a minute, James Hetfield is in rehab, so how can you be seeing this concert if he's in rehab? That doesn't make sense. Okay, so let's rewind this back for those of you that maybe aren't caught up on your Metallica news and all that. So Metallica had hooked up with the San Francisco Symphony Musical Orchestra back in September. And it was basically to mark the 20th anniversary of when they had did the first Metallica S&M. And the maestro behind it all, the mastermind pretty much that was getting everything rolling with that first outing, was the late Michael Kamen. Rest in peace, Michael Kamen. I was bummed when he passed away because I knew, like, as a Metallica fan, okay, well, as far as them collaborating, like, immediately, maybe like 2, 3, 5 years, yeah, you could pretty much throw that out the window now that he's passed. But this is something that I have been wanting to see for a long time, and I'll get back to that point in just a little bit. But everything stems from what Michael Kamen did with Metallica back in 1999 from the first S&M. And so this is something that they honestly, like, once Michael Kamen passed and everything like that, it was just a situation where they weren't really too keen on revisiting that era for whatever respective reason. I don't think it was a bad thing or anything like that. I just think when it was all said and done, maybe honestly, like internally, they just felt, the timing doesn't seem quite right. So sadly, you fast forward 20 something years later, and I don't know if maybe it was a combination of fans or they just started to become more and more receptive to the idea of, well, it is the 20th anniversary since we did the first S&M. Hell, why not? Let's make it happen. And so here we are, Metallica S&M 2. Again, this was done with the San Francisco Symphony Musical Orchestra in September. Now, sadly, if you did not get tickets to go to that concert, you were shit out of luck. But Metallica, knowing that all of Metallica Nation wanted to see this concert, thought strategically, and they thought very smart. Okay, you know what? Our fans are going to want to see this, so why not do what we need to do and have it play in the theaters? Like, remember what we did with Some Kind of Monster, right? And so that's what happened. So as it stands right now, this week, check your local theaters for listings, but this week only, it is showing, or at least it began this week. It's showing in theaters. Now, it's a grand total of 3,000 theaters that's going to be showing it. And so if it just depends, like the official press releases that's out there right now, the way they're doing it is if you miss the opportunity to see it this week, it's going to come back around. So you'll have a second opportunity to see it at your respective theater, like in about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks or whatever. And then that's pretty much it. Okay. This took a lot of people off guard. Some of my friends, they didn't even know that the concert was being shown in the theaters. And like by the time they knew, like they had already made other arrangements. So it was kind of like, damn, got to check out the next one or whatnot. But big Metallica fan. I mean, come on, man. You see me rocking my Metallica shirt. I have all of their albums, grew up on these guys. And, sadly, it seemed like every single time I turned around, work or something was always getting in the way. And I could never see Metallica live in person. And there was actually somebody I was interacting with earlier today because we were just going back and forth about James Hetfield and all that. And, man, look, before I go any further, look, I know James Hetfield has been getting nothing but love and just the mad support, but I definitely want to join in on that, man, because I mean, I grew up on these guys. You know, I kind of feel like these are stepbrothers in essence, or whatever. But you know, as all you all probably know, James Hetfield, he has been battling alcohol and, you know, trying to stay sober and all that for all these years. And to his credit, he's done a phenomenal job, especially being so open about being sober and everything. But you know, those demons, they got a hold of him when it was all said and done, and he had a little bit of a setback. And he's been in rehab now. I don't want to poke into if he's still in rehab, out of rehab. The last thing that I heard was they were supposed to, Metallica that is, they were supposed to go on a tour. Australia was supposed to be one of the places. I want to say New Zealand was maybe the other one. And they were getting ready to go do this. And sadly, yeah, James Hetfield couldn't go, so they had to cancel those. They were pretty bummed out about it, no doubt. But I'm like this, man, nothing else matters. And I don't really mean to quote the song, but in this case, nothing matters right now except for yourself, your well-being, getting your mind, your spirit, just everything, just getting all that checked. So however long it takes, right? James Hetfield, as it stands right now, is on a little bit of a sabbatical until otherwise. And look, if he comes back a lot sooner, I guess that's good. But if you ask me as a longtime diehard fan, I just want him to stay out for as long as it takes, just stringing together one day at a time. I don't believe this is the last we've heard of Metallica by any means. I don't see it ending like this. I think it's just a case where once James gets everything in check, you know, he'll be back, and the band will definitely be back and better than ever. And kind of like what I was telling one of my friends, I said, look, for you and me both, because he said, man, I've never gotten a chance to see Metallica in concert. I hope that I get the chance to, you know, assuming that James can kick these demons in the ass. I said, you, me both, because yeah, you know, it shouldn't go out like on this note, and I don't think he's going to. And I just think it's so amazing how the entire music community has just come together, fans, peers, everybody. I just think it's fucking awesome how everybody has come together and has been sending James nothing but love and support. So James Hetfield, speedy recovery, one day at a time. And you know, this is coming from somebody that had experience seeing their own parent suffer with drug and alcohol substance abuse, and it sucks when it happens. And I've seen the relapse, and you know, knock on wood, my respected parent has been drug and alcohol free now for about 20 years. You just got to take it one day at a time. It really helps to have a good support system in place and be surrounded by a bunch of positive people. But James, speedy recovery. This concert, I loved it. I just loved it. And I love how Metallica had came in and they were like, hey, before we let you in and see this great concert / collaboration we did with the San Francisco Orchestra and everything, you know, we just want to take the time out to thank the many of you that's seeing this, because other than if you were initially there in San Francisco, you guys that's watching this right now in the theaters, this is like your first time checking this out. You're in for a cool, magical treat, yada, yada, yada. And they're like, yeah, as soon as we get done talking already, you know, shutting the fuck up, you guys are going to see the concert. And it was like, okay, they're setting the tone. That's great. And they were like, Lars was doing most of the talking. He was like, yeah, so enjoy the show, and you know, just be standing on your feet, and you know, don't be sitting there. Stand on your feet and sing along and cheer and jump up and down. That's not what happened in my theater. I'm sorry. And look, my theater was cool, don't get me wrong. I love the demographics too for my showing. I saw a 7 o'clock showing tonight, and I didn't get out until 10:30. So you do the math. You know, technically the movie started at 7, but as you guys know, you usually get a movie that's almost, it feels like 30 minutes of freaking trailers. They get longer and longer, it seems, each time you go to the damn movies. Don't even get me started on the nachos, by the way. Since when is nachos $15? I don't mean to sound like Pepperidge Farm or anything, but like, back in my day, nachos wasn't $15. Nachos used to be $3.50. Hell, I remember $5.75. I even remember $7.50. What's this about $15? Like that's insane. And it's the same as funky ass little nachos. You don't even get love and get a bonus nacho dip for that amount of money. It's the same little funky. You do better just go into the store, getting yourself 2 big ass bags of Tostitos and a big old jar of whatever Tostitos dip and call it a day. And you probably have enough money to get some hot dogs and some bread on top of all of that. Anyway, yeah, my showing was really interesting because as far as the demographics go, just in case you're curious, I mean, we had little kids that were watching this concert. And when I say little kids, the youngest I saw was like, maybe 10, 9, 8-ish, around that age range. We had, take your pick. We had black people. We had white people. We had Mexicans. We had Chinese. It was wonderful seeing everybody just there representing, people showing up in their Metallica colors and all that great stuff. It was amazing. And nobody was standing up and screaming and all that. Everybody was just bobbing their heads, tapping their feet, throwing their hands in the air, saying a little yeah once in a while, a few claps here and there. But I mean, overall, the energy from the crowd, at least at my showing, it was just very upbeat. It was just, man, we're all here. We're all here for this band. We're here to show our support. Let's fucking rock. Man, the set list. I gotta give mad props to the set list. I mean, as I've gotten older, I've had my fair share of seeing bands. And I know usually one of the things that people like to do is go online and get an idea of what the set list is so they can kind of figure out, oh, okay, what can I expect? And some people will actually cheat and look at the set list before they even put down money on tickets just to even see if it's even worth their time to go check out this movie, right? That's how usually it is. Like, whether it's a movie where you're seeing a concert in the theater, in this case, or you're actually going to a concert and it's like, well, I don't really want to go. I want to first see what the set list is. And if they're not playing my hits, then I'm not going to go. I don't like operating like that. I like going in blindly. I'm still old school like that. I think that's the best way to go in. Like, if you love the band, you fuck with them like that, nothing else should matter. Like, just go represent what they play, let it be spontaneous. And I gotta tell you, the set list that they did, it was freaking killer. Now, I'm gonna get into the set list right now. I'm just gonna do a quick rundown, and I'm gonna give you guys afterwards some key thoughts on just some of the songs that I felt really stood out this go around. And I'll definitely let you know where this one stands to the 1999 S&M concert. But the set list, and this was a killer set list, mind you. All right, so we had set one, because they broke it up in 2 sets. There was an intermission period. The first set, you had the Ecstasy of Gold, the Call of Cthulhu, I always mispronounce that, For Whom the Bell Tolls, The Day That Never Comes, The Memory Remains, Confusion, Moth into a Flame, The Outlaw Torn, No Leaf Clover, Halo on Fire. All right, that's your first set. You have an intermission, second set. Now, for you all that know your classical music and all that, look, I like classical music, but I'm rusty as hell on some of these names when it comes to Mozart, Beethoven. That's pretty much all I got, And then I'm kind of like, I don't know how to pronounce that one. All right, so set 2, Scythian Suite, Op 20, second movement. That is a Sergei Sergeyevich Prokofiev cover, performed by the San Francisco Symphony. I know I've butchered the fuck out of that. Sorry, people. Sorry in advance. Iron Foundry, which is a Alexander Moziloff cover. It was a live debut. The Unforgiven 3, that was performed by the San Francisco Symphony. All Within My Hands, I gotta come back to that in a hot second. Anesthesia, Pulling Teeth, I'm gonna come back to that one in a minute. Wherever I May Roam, One, Master of Puppets, Nothing Else Matters, Inner Sandmans with The Frayed Ends of Sanity as an outro. So that's it. Now, if there was any more that was done, like maybe an encore or whatever, don't know anything about that. I can only tell you what was shown in the theaters to us tonight and what's playing in theaters right now. I would like to believe that coming up this holiday season, as far as on DVD, I would like to believe, because usually that's what most of these bands do. They do include a little bit of some encore stuff that you didn't see in the theaters and all that. So maybe that's what we'll get. Now, once the credits were done rolling, the very last thing we see, we get an image letting us know that this concert, it is going to be available on CD. Not sure about DVD. I mean, you would think DVD should be a no-brainer. So I'm going to go ahead and say CD was certain, because there were some of us that were looking at the credits. Some of us had turned our heads, and I was actually one of the people that turned the head. And one guy had said, hey guys, did you all see that? He was kind of like talking to everybody within his earshot. He was like, guys, did you see that? You're like, no, what are you talking about? Oh, they just said that the album, it's going to drop. And like when he said that, I look and I could just see the last little bit of the album cover, and then everything went to black. And I was like, did you see a date? He's like, no, it just said coming soon. So I would like to believe, kind of like what they did with the last S&M, that was pretty much DVD, CD. I would like to believe they're going to do DVD love as well on top of the CD. So it's like, okay, that's awesome, right? But let's talk about some of these tracks here, man. I'm not trying to go all overkill either, man, but like off the break, like if I could just home in on like some things that really stood out to me the most. Lars Ulrich, that man, when you just watch him on the drums, he is like a freaking madman. It is like watching a scientist that is just, I'm going to mix a little bit of this. I'm going to mix a little bit of that. You know, and he is just, my God, it's like watching the Miles Davis of freaking drums. You know, just watching the maestro just, I mean, insane. His drumming. And like, I know some people, it's going to be like, nah, but he's always, I don't know, man. I just find that as I get a little bit older, it's the little things I'm kind of like kicking back and really appreciating more and more and more and more and more. And I know there was that period, particularly during Saint Anger, where a lot of Metallica fans were pissed off with Lars, and they were pissed off with him for a couple of more joints past Saint Anger, because they were like, man, this fucking drums, man. His kit sounds like it's all snarly and shit, like it's muffled. What's going on with that? Like, he needs to change that. Like, what the hell? I thought the arrangements and all that on Saint Anger was fine. I thought in, out, all around, I thought the Saint Anger album was pretty good. But Lars, when you watch this, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Lars really jumps out at you. And I guess if I were to really try to pinpoint why was I so focused on him, I guess because, man, when you realize how long you've been a fan of this band, and you like, damn, it's been some decades. Now you're seeing the gray in their hair and all that, and yet they're still able to go out there and be as ferocious as they were in their 20s. And Lars being like the main one that is just still, I mean, he, like a madman, he is still pounding them freaking drums. You're like, wow. Like, and off the break, like as far as tracks that stand out, I mean, definitely the For Whom the Bell Tolls, yeah, the drums on that. Honestly, from set one, the first three songs, Ecstasy of Gold, Call of Cthulhu, and For Whom the Bell Tolls. Lars is just like a mother. That really stood out for me the most. So he has his shining standout moments from that set. And then looking later on, I also got to give him mad love once again, as far as him really showcasing and everything. I got to give it up to the second set, the Anesthesia Pulling Teeth. There is a beautiful bass arrangement that's done by, I think the guy's name is Scott. I don't know his last name, but he performed it. He was part of the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra. And that part during the show, James Hetfield had set it up. He was like, hey, we just want to take this time out. And we want to recognize one of our brothers, of course, that's no longer with us. Y'all remember Cliff, well, and they pretty much introduced, I think the guy's name was Scott. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but they pretty much had introduced that San Francisco Symphony bassist. And you're like, man, I mean, I've never seen in all my years, I've never seen anybody turn a classical instrument, in this case, a bass. You just look at it and you're like, oh, okay, a classical bass. Okay, cool. But what he was able to do with that, with a couple of amplifiers and all that, I mean, he was able to essentially turn it into a metal electric bass slash electric guitar. It was just amazing. I mean, that really stood out the most. I mean, he got such a roaring ovation from the crowd as well. And my God, it felt like he must have had about at least 7 minutes to 10 minutes of a solo. And then Lars comes in there and him and dude, they are just jamming it out. And man, you will eat that up. I'm telling you, you will eat that up. That really stood out to me big time. So as far as key moments with Lars, those are the three you can definitely home in on. Can we home in on James Hetfield? I know some people, now that you know what you know about him having the whole relapse and everything, and again, speedy recovery to him, some of you are probably going to be wondering, okay, well, how did his vocals hold up during this performance? Because here we are, October 10th, and they did this back in September. Okay, so how was he holding up? Was there any signs that maybe, we should have known that something was? No, you would not know. You would not know. James was freaking sharp. I mean, he was almost matching. I would say vocally, James did 10 times better than what he did on S&M from 1999. James' vocals were really freaking strong. And I mean, to just see James stand there and just, at times, again, here is where, man, I've been watching this band for how many years now. And James, all of them, they got the gray hair and everything. James especially. But you're looking at James and you're like, damn, this dude can still belt it out. He can still hit them high notes. He is still the ultimate frontman and everything. And you wouldn't know, like at that point, if he was battling any demons with regards to this performance, you would not know it, because he was ice cold, untouchable. Okay. Killer performances vocally for him. The tracks that stood out to me the most, that I know you guys will definitely love. I'm just looking here. I would say, oh man, this is a tough one here. I would say, man, this is a tough one. Let me look here. There's two that come into mind right now. There's two, and I'm trying to figure out, there was something from the set 2. Yeah, it's coming back to me now. I just had a little bit of a brain fart. Forgive me, guys. As far as where his vocals shine the most and they're like at their most strongest, I gotta go with the Unforgiven 3. That's the one that really, I was quite taken back. The rest of the Metallica band did not back him up on this one. It was actually the San Francisco Symphony that was handling it all. And it was such a beautiful arrangement. I really loved how they stripped down some key Metallica songs. But like for the most part, a lot of the songs that were on 1999's S&M showed up on this one, and like how it was arranged and everything by Michael Kamen, they really didn't shake it up too much, but at the same time they made their own impression, and I love that. I love that a lot. But as far as, well, wait a minute, the way they stripped this one down, okay, this is actually pretty good. Unforgiven 3, the way that was just totally stripped, it just basically, it almost felt like you were, and when I say this, it's going to sound cheesy, but it'll make a lot of sense when you think about it. It was almost like you were watching a Broadway play, right? It's like, no Metallica, no Kirk, no Lars, no Roberto. It's just James. He's just singing these powerful ballads, and he's got the nice, flutes and the violins and all that in the background, and you're like, wow, really? And like it was a really powerful song, and you couldn't help but get very lost into it. Very emotional of a song. There's so many emotions that you go throughout set 1 and 2, but like when you get to that point and you hear that song, you're just really blown away by James. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. I'm not over exaggerating one little bit whatsoever. Let's see. Trying to see if James has any other nods for vocals. I mean, he was good really all throughout, but that's one that really stood out to me the most. Let's see. Just going through the rest here. I would also say the acoustic version of All Within My Hands. That's from set 2. That's another arrangement where once again, and here's the beautiful thing, and I didn't even know this, but as Metallica was introducing S&M 2, they talked about how what really made S&M differ from S&M 2 was that with the first one, Michael Kamen was the one that pretty much was doing all the arrangements, and Metallica was pretty much relying on him for the guidance and everything, creatively and all that. And what they decided to do with S&M 2, it was, okay, well, look, San Francisco Orchestra, no, we want to work with you all. We want to help you arrange it as best as we can, but we want to collaborate with you. We want this to be a team effort. And it definitely felt like that. If I were to even kind of take a step back, it did feel more like this was a team effort as opposed to a Michael Kamen, and everybody's just taking the cues from him and everything. And just the way that they had stripped down All Within My Hands. I loved it. James, that's another one, it almost came off like a power ballad, so to speak. I really loved the way that they had set that one up. Let's see, what else? Just going through the rest here, seeing what other ones had stood out to me. Of course, from set 2, the Scythian Suite, Op 20, I love that. I love that. This was basically the San Francisco band's opportunity to show what they were all about. There was no Metallica. This was pretty much all them. And then once they got done performing that, they then set up the Iron Foundry, which was a live debut. This is a cover. This is a Alexander Moseloff cover. And it was great. Now, I got to give the maestro some credit here. There's 2 of them I got to give a lot of props to. And I want to make sure before we wrap this up, I give them the love because these guys, I got a lot of respect for them. So the main conductor was Edwin Outwater. And there's a big difference from when you're watching him and he's basically conducting the band versus Michael Tilson Thomas, who was also a conductor and a special guest. Now, as far as arranging the songs for the symphony to play and trying to figure out, where Metallica is going to be able to get in, working with Metallica, figuring everything out. I mean, Edwin and Michael both really were in on it, but Michael was more of the lead guy. And when you go to pretty much the first set, it was pretty much all Edwin. But then when Michael comes to the scene and he's now conducting the band, it felt drastically different. And I would say anybody that saw this in theaters would agree with me. It felt more orchestra-ish. Not that that's a word, but that's the word I'm going with here for this recording. It just felt more classical. It felt more opera-ish. I can't really describe it. You got to see it for yourself, and it makes sense. But when it came to the Iron Foundry, I love how Michael had brought in the symphony band, and then Metallica they're looking to him and they're taking their cues for when they can get in and everything. And it was badass how they freaking came in there. It was like this. If I were to describe it, it was like when you hear the Scythian Suite Op 20, you were hearing like, and to Michael's credit, he did describe it. It was like you were listening to some tribunal, type of music, but it sounded like something from Kirk Douglas and Spartacus. Like, it sounded like something along the lines of, okay, there is a fight that is getting ready to happen, and the guys, they're putting on their war paint, they're putting the armor on their horses, they're getting ready to ride off, going to the top of that hill, and they are waiting for their opponents, and they are going to go into bloody combat. That's what Scythian Suite had sounded like. And then when you get to Iron Foundry, I mean, it sounded like some freaking if I were to describe it, it sounded like some freaking a crossbreed of Megadeth meets some type of like epic Rob Halford meets, yet somehow you got the orchestra mixed in there. I can't really describe. You just got to go in and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, those definitely had kicked ass. The entire set list kicked ass. Honestly, I loved it. For me, I also loved how they did No Leaf Clover. If you guys remember, we had reviewed No Leaf Clover some months back. I love that they had brought that into the rotation. Nice rendition of it. The Day That Never Comes. Most curious how they were going to approach that when I first began hearing what sounded like, oh, they're getting ready to do The Day That Never Comes. That surprised me. I didn't think they were going to be able to really, because it feels like such a powerful song that like, nah, you can't really go the symphony route with that, but somehow they were able to pull that off. Also, Moth Into a Flame. They did great with that. Halo on Fire. That was a really great arrangement. That one, of all the tracks, if you would have told me, oh yeah, the symphony, they're going to be able to really jam out on Halo on Fire, I'd be like, nah, man, I'm not seeing that. Them on the Halo, no, I'm not. But they were able to do that. So I think it's interesting how they were able to take some of these newer songs from the Death Magnetic and also from the Hardwired to Self-Destruct albums, and were able to do these great, beautiful renditions of them and everything. But yeah, I would say now, let's address the elephant in the room. This S&M compared to 1999's S&M. Okay, so does one of them outweigh the other? That's like asking which kid do you love more, right? It's like you're a parent and it's like, which kid do you love, right? That's a tough question. It really is. And I gotta tell you, as a diehard Metallica fan, both hold up equally. Both hold up equally. You know, in some instances, I wouldn't blame people if they said, well, I like S&M 2 more than the first one. And if you were to probe them and say why, if they said, oh, well, I liked Halo on Fire, I liked hearing Moth Into a Flame, you know, the newer stuff, basically. Okay, I can understand that. But for me, it feels like a damn tie. I think it all just really depends on your mood or whatnot. But this set complements the 1999 set extremely well. Extremely well. It is a great companion. And even though it took 20 years for this to happen, you know, not for nothing, but I would say it was well worth the delay. I honestly would say. And if they were to never do something like this again, I think that's fun. I think based on the legacy that was set forth with the first one, I think if anything, they complemented this one extremely well. Extremely, extremely well. Also, I want to give props to, because I know some people are going to be like, well, okay, you talked about Lars, you talked about James. Did Roberto have any shining moments? Roberto, not really. And I'm being honest, because I've been very consistent when it comes to Roberto, and I think that's something that a lot of other Metallica fans have been saying respectfully on their own, which is, hey, Roberto, he is such a great bassist player, but it kind of sounds like on a lot of these Metallica albums and even in concert, he's kind of drowned out a bit. It's really kind of hard to hear him, even when it comes to him sometimes applying backup vocals. It's kind of hard to hear him. You could hear Kirk if he's doing backup vocals, but if Roberto's doing it, you can't really hear him. Like, what's going on? And for me, honestly, and the sound was booming. I mean, it was loud at my theater. For me, just going through the set list here, you could definitely hear his bass in Inner Sandman. You could definitely hear him in Wherever I May Roam. I would also say you could definitely hear him with the Iron Foundry, because that goes back to when the conductor Michael was bringing the symphony, and then it was awesome how he brought each Metallica member in one by one. And Roberto had a nice, good little moment right there. I know some of you guys that have seen enough Metallica concerts, you're probably used to seeing Roberto and Kirk doing a jam session together. There was no jam session between those two guys on this one. Again, if maybe that was part of an encore set, I don't know anything about it. I can only comment on what was shown in the theater. So, but yeah, there was no jam out session, at least what was shown on this big screen here. But other than that, no, Roberto didn't really stand out for me. Now, I'm hoping that when the CD drops, maybe we'll be able to hear him a lot better. Let's see. Of course, Kirk. Come on, man. Kirk is the freaking Thunder God, man, when it comes to that damn guitar. Kirk never disappoints. And that's the God's the honest truth. He never disappoints. I mean, when have you ever heard Kirk not really come through on some of these songs? I mean, he's just the master. As far as like any particular where I enjoyed him jamming out, God, I'm a sucker for the Outlaw Torn. I love the Outlaw Torn. I love just hearing him going there with his solo, and then, when they do that last verse, and then James pretty much is setting up that rhythm, and Kirk just comes in there and he's just doing his thing. They kind of flow really well. Anytime they play Outlaw Torn, Kirk never disappoints. Looking at the rest here, of course, Enter Sandman, Wherever I May Roam. Come on, that's a good jam out session and all that. But yeah, no, Kirk was good. You can't really complain on Kirk. But for me, the guys that really stood out the most was definitely James on some of those tracks I had mentioned, Lars on some of those tracks I had mentioned as well. But in a nutshell, you haven't seen it yet, go out of your way. Best money that you'll spend. I promise you that. If you were not able to get tickets to go see them in person in San Francisco back in September, this is the next best thing. And I'm telling you, this was produced by Metallica through their respective distribution company and all that. And the way it was professionally shot, it was awesome. I mean, they went all out for the set, the whole 9 yards. I mean, they treated this like a over-the-top, big freaking budget. Something that they did not do with 1999's S&M. I mean, they really put everything out there money-wise from a production standpoint. And, it was like the epic concert of concerts. It was awesome. It really felt like, and I can't stress this enough, and I really hope that it starts to become a trend that other artists will really start exploring more, which is, hey, we got some fans, maybe they got ripped off by Ticketmaster or StubHub, because you got all those bots. That's the day and age that we're in right now, where you got all these bots that's buying up the tickets and stuff. And so fans that want to go see their favorite bands, they can't, because bots bought them all up, and it's on the market again for 3, 4, 5, 10 times what you should have been paying initially, right? It's like what was initially a $200 ticket has now turned into a $5,000 ticket. Get the fuck out of here. So I wish that more bands would follow suit and show some, hey, that was a great concert. Hey, we should show this in theaters. Like Bruce Springsteen, that was actually one of the concert trailers we were shown right before the Metallica movie had kicked in and everything. There's some new Bruce Springsteen concert that he did, I don't know how long ago, but they're going to be showing it in theaters in a couple of weeks. I don't know. I might actually go check that out. But I mean, for basically anywhere between 10 to almost $15 to go out of your way and check this out, and you got a nice comfortable chair, got some good food and all that, you will be all right. You won't be disappointed. Hey, if you had saw Metallica S&M 2, let me know what you had thought about it in the comment section below. Let me know how your experience was. And if you're new, welcome. Please make sure you subscribe, man. Especially if you love all things wrestling, sports entertainment and all that good stuff. We talk wrestling, a little bit of non-wrestling related stuff. It's got you talking. We're talking about it here on the RCWR Show. You can catch us normally. When are we not doing a show? I mean, these days we're doing shows Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays, Sundays, when there are some pay-per-views that we have to tackle. Get at me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Use the keywords the RCWR Show. And you can check out more episodes on all your favorite devices, platforms like Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, all over the place. Just use the keywords the RCWR Show. But that's going to do it for Metallica S&M 2. The review gets a big thumbs up. Till next go round, wishing all y'all to be safe and most importantly be kind to one another. I will see you all next go round. Y'all do take care. Hey, make sure you smash that like button, share, all that good stuff, subscribe. Catch you guys later.